This project wouldn't have been possible without some people, without some credible organizations who also saw us as credible. So on this note, I want to especially thank Maria Catherine and her team at the Gender at Work, Lady Smith, Women at the Table, all those promoting gender equality and inclusion, that they are doing an excellent job, because through this project, we as an organization, we thought that because we have existed for over 40 years, that we know it all. But in these few months, I call it months or so, that we have done this project, I am seeing that there are certain aspects of science, technology, and innovation, research, policy, and practice that we don't know much about. And the synergy and complementarity we have enjoyed in doing and implementing this work has increased our knowledge so much in understanding the aspects of gender in science, technology, and innovation. So I would say that apart from the project, the learning and the knowledge that this project has impacted on us as an organization and other partners here are so much. And I see my team now being very gender responsive. So when we are designing new projects, they are busy looking for, have you genderized this? Have you ensured gender? Hello, Zioko, can you mute your, okay. So so that is the learning that is even already institutionalized in our own organization. So apart from carrying out the project, we ourselves as an institution, we are upping our game to ensure that we mainstream gender in all aspects of work that we do, even in organizational systems and structures. So you have done a great job for us by allowing us to work with you, Maria Catherine, Susan Sutton. I appreciate her a lot because she started, Shannon Sutton. She started this work with us, and we appreciate her a lot because she has helped expose us to gender issues the way we currently work. So thank you to Maria Catherine, Shannon Sutton, all the team. I know Shannon is now wearing another cap, but we are still together in this business. So thank you so much for this opportunity to learn from you, because that is what I take it. You so much co-developed, co-implemented this project with us, and we learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. I will also not forget my partners with whom wouldn't have done this very well. The Kumasi Hive and ISIPE. They have been so resourceful in providing this complementarity in thinking, both in the core science and in the core business of seeing how we capacitate women to harness their potential so that they are not left behind as usual. I was an extension agent for more than 8 years. working with rural people. And I discovered, of course, you know, the function of an extension agent. We, we, we take proven technologies from research to farmers for them to adopt. My experience show that whenever we take any new technology to the rural community, to any rural community, it is the men that come to embrace it. In some places, it is even a taboo for women to come and welcome us, to know what we have brought to such communities. So it is the men who will come. And once it is a technology that will yield money, I am telling you that before it will trickle down to women, the men would have already used them up and would have left only the debris for women to take. Despite the fact that we are talking about agriculture, where these women play over 75% role in all the productive processes around and the value chain around agricultural production, utilization, marketing, processing, and so on and so forth. It's just in the money aspect that the men will become the treasurer, or they will be the CS or ministers of treasury and keep the finances and utilize the technology. But now we are reversing the trend thanks to the approaches and new methodologies we are learning from our donors and partners on the best approach to ensure that women are empowered to even harness this opportunity. And they can only be empowered if you understand their situations, if you can understand what are the barriers inhibiting them from embracing this technology. And only then can you then address it properly and be able to now take interventions to them, work with them, and capacitate them. As we are talking about women, we are talking about the marginalized, the youth, the people living with disabilities, and so on and so forth. These are the people we are targeting in this project. So, like I said, I wouldn't want to, I want to serve the meal, full course, full meal, not begin to nibble at it. There are experts here who will handle all these key issues in this capacity building webinar or dissemination webinar, sorry, to tell you what we have seen in the field. My team is working very hard to translate our research results into policy and also policy practice. We are working to also ensure that we increase the knowledge economy by publishing some of the new frameworks we found out while undertaking this project. So I will only say that you need to sit back, relax, and enjoy this trip that my team is going to take you through. Thank you very much. And I hand over back to Joel. But before I do that, I would also want to thank specially my team at the ATPS on this project led by Joel for the hard work and dedication and commitment. I want to also the stakeholders who have worked with us in Nigeria and in Senegal, especially our national chapter coordinators, Professor Michael Madukwe, and also in Senegal, Professor Kane Sheikh, for their support in ensuring that this work went well in their respective countries, providing the local support, ensuring that the implementation process of this project was very seamless. So I thank them so much. Professor Maduko, I can see you coming in. You're welcome. Thank you very much for mentoring and training some of us. I continue to announce that I am a product of Professor Madukwe, one of his products, and we are proud of him, that he made people like us, and we are keen to make even more people. So at this point, I can now proudly hand over to Professor Joel to serve the full meal to our guests. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nicholas. We also, before we go full, we want to get some remarks from Maria Catherine, who is the anchor person from Gender Outwork, and they are fully aware of what this project is. So please, Maria Catherine, we want you to just give us the motivation behind the Gender Innovation Project, and so that the wider audience will understand why this project is very important, and then we can go to the key points or highlights of this project. Thank you, Maria Catherine.
Thank you, Joel. So just to say that Gender at Work, Women at the Table, and Ladysmith were hired by IDRC as technical partners to support the hubs and labs of the AI4D in Africa program, with the understanding that a big issue is responsible AI, right? That's ethical and inclusive. We know that AI can reproduce the same inequalities and can even cause harm to certain populations. And Professor Nicholas Azor put it very well in the field of agriculture. In farming communities, when a good technology might come, there's certain people that might not benefit. And often there's already existing gender inequalities in communities in farming that make it that often women and people living with disabilities and young farmers, they're less likely to access those technologies and the benefits, the innovations to improve their farming. So as the technical partners of AI4D for IDRC, our job was to accompany and create learning spaces for the hubs and labs to think about for themselves how they think gender equality and inclusion and equity should be integrated into their applied research. And so as they mentioned Shannon, who was my predecessor working with AI4AFS, she was also a Gender at Work colleague, and then I replaced her about 6 months ago, and our job is really just to support and accompany. We do not necessarily tell people what to do. We just try and create opportunities, and one of them was the Innovation Challenge, which was a fund created in partnership with IDRC, with the idea that maybe there needs to be a specific fund and support to the hubs and labs of AI4D for IDRC's for this program, to which AI4AFS was a hub, and as you know, that gives grants to sub grantees who do research in using technology for food and agricultural system strengthening. The idea was this special fund would give hubs and labs more concentrated time, attention, but also money, because it's often when you want to do gender and inclusion work, people don't know where to start. Anyway, so all I'd say is that the AI4AFS won the grant because it was a competitive bid, and they chose they wanted to do something innovative in their existing work that they were doing. And through the Innovation Challenge Fund and through our support, they came up with what they're going to present today, which is an incredible and innovative way of engaging those that are usually marginalized from opportunities to improve their livelihoods in agriculture and food systems to improve their opportunities, right? So without further ado, Joel, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just say that I think it's super exciting what you're presenting. And I'm glad you're recording this, because I'm sure other people, even if they're not here, they will be very interested in learning about this, because although gender equality and inclusion is often, I think it's now pretty well known across everywhere. Maybe not in farming communities, but certainly in universities and at government levels. That doesn't mean that it's prioritized, but we know that people know about it, and a lot of people are starting to recognize what it means. And one thing I really appreciate about your work is that you really adopted this idea of an intersectional approach to gender equality and inclusion. And what I mean by that is that you looked at who are the most marginalized, seeing that it's women farmers, but also people living with disabilities, youth. And this is really important. This is what it's about, right? It's about knowing who are those marginal users and how can you create an opportunity for them to access and benefit equally to opportunities. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to confirm that I can share screen. I don't know whether the audience can confirm that they saw the screen I just displayed. Did it show over there?
Yeah, the first one, but
right.
it's showing something else now.
All right. So this one is showing now.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. So thank you, Maria Catherine. We're so excited to have you here. And, you know, when we conclude, we will be Oliver Twist that will say, please, we want to do more. And I know that in the next phase, you will consider us to implement or widen the scope of this project. So in line with our activities, we want to go straight to, you know, we have been, you know, raising your appetite, you know, but now we want to actually go into the project itself and you understand what we did. The key findings will be shared, and through the key findings, we developed, or the lessons learned, we developed a framework. So we're going to see that framework, where it situates, and then Daisy will be discussing on the impact of AI technology on women and marginalized communities. So after that discussion, they will actually then go, we will take the presentation. So it will be something like a roundtable discussion, why Daisy takes the lead and coordinates that before we go into the presentation of the gender framework. So Daisy is taking the lead now to go into the discussion on the impact of AI technologies on women and marginalized communities, after which we'll now go into the presentation of the framework to guide the adoption of AI in Africa. We will take some questions and answers after that, and then we go into session 2, where we will discuss a very innovative approach we used, the design by inclusion approach. That will also be presented fully, to not be a discussion, or will be presented by Daisy, and then we'll look at those case studies. We'll compare the case studies in the 2 countries we mainstream this project. And then we'll take some question and answers. Please feel free to ask your question by raising your hand, and then you will be asked to unmute your device. Then finally, we will take the section on best practices and policy recommendations. That will be handled by our able gender expert in our team, Dr. Cynthia Nwobodo. So you can see our team is genderized. We have the women doing the job. They have been powerful and want to recognize them on this occasion. So Cynthia will be discussing on those best practices and recommendations for gender inclusive AI adoption. And then we'll take questions, and then we'll go into the summary of the and we'll take the closing remarks again from the executive director and from our donors. So we want to go straight into that discussion that will take place now. So you need to listen attentively. And that discussion is on impact of AI technologies on women and marginalized communities. Daisy. Sorry, we should have recognized Daisy first. Daisy, before Daisy goes into presentation, Daisy is a partner from ICIPE that is fully involved in this project. We mentioned two other partners working with ATPS, ICIPE, and Kumasi Hive. So Daisy, please say hi to us, and then followed by Rex from Kumasi Hive, and then we'll go into the deep dive of that discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I need to apologize. I've struggled to try to put on my camera, but I just can't. So sorry that I will speak without the camera on. Thank you, Joel. This is really an exciting moment for all of us. As AI gets traction in agriculture and food systems in Africa, the danger of leaving some marginalized players in agriculture is very high. And we are looking at such as women who really play a big role. They dominate the agriculture production across Africa in the smallholder farming. And women have already been behind a lot of technologies, including even digital tools that are not necessarily AI in Africa. So we know women have limited education level, their financial resources are limited, they have less access to credit, and all these characteristics of women, even including other marginalized groups, they're endangered species as AI penetrate into agriculture and food systems. And therefore, as we develop the AI tools in agriculture, we need to be very responsible and make sure that nobody is left behind. And women, they play a big role in this. And I know even other marginalized communities or people should also not be left behind. And what I mean is that every design at hand has the potential to include or exclude. As I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think the way, just a simple example. The games that children play, the video games, it's designed in a way that you carry a pad. You need to have your eyes being able to see. Therefore, you shouldn't be blind because you need to be able to see the screen and to see what is happening with it. The pad has two knobs, and therefore you need to have your two hands being able to operate. As you listen to what I'm saying, it simply means this has been designed for people with two hands. You are able to see. That is the perfect way of handling that. That, therefore, excludes people who are blind, excludes people who might not have hands unless they have trained their legs. You see that exclusion, it just comes by default. So we are looking at, by default, if we do not take any measures, we are very likely to leave the marginalized, which include the women and other marginalized groups, those that have a disability. And so we cannot afford that. If we are to be responsible in in developing AI tools in agriculture and leaving nobody behind, then we need to be careful and find approaches that will empower such marginalized communities to be carried along as AI gets traction in agriculture and food systems. And so as we sit in this space today, we have an approach that has been tried. And indeed, we want to believe it will empower the women and other marginalized communities in the development of AI, so that they are able to embrace that, they are able to adopt that, and they are able to realize the potentials of AI in agriculture and food systems. Joel, I stop there.
Thank you very much, Daisy, for that perspective. Rex, from Kumasi Hive, want to also get briefly your perspective on what we can say is the impact, maybe from the perspective of someone who is into commercialization of technologies, especially AI. What are the fears? What do you think are the critical impacts? Why we should be intentional about our approach in adopting AI in Africa? Thank you very much. Rex?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon from Ghana. Yes, thank you, Prof. Joel, and thank you for organizing our webinar. So taking off from where Dr. Daisy has spoken of, we realize that when we want to get everybody to use our products or our gains, we will need to ensure that everybody has access. Now, we're going into giving everybody access means that we have considered every factor that has to do with inclusivity. So usually when we want to commercialize products, we have the focus of making profit out of what we have, getting a lot of people to use what we have produced, and then making sure that whatever funds that have been invested into our work can be recouped in addition to making profit. Now, the bigger question is that whilst we have majority of the individuals out of the use of our products, how do we even get to understand that we are going to make profit out of what we have put out there? So it is necessary that whilst we look at developing tech solutions and then applying AI to all of these tech solutions, the focus is that we are not producing them and keeping them in our rooms. Rather, we are producing them and ensuring that everybody is going to use our product. Hence, it is necessary that we go into gender, we consider the marginalized, so that we bring everybody in, so that our products will not be on the shelf. So thank you. I find this as a great opportunity where we are thinking through how we are developing things again, and we are rewriting the stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rex. Thank you very much, Rex. And so we want to also listen briefly from Cynthia, who is a gender expert. I know please, her insight will be very interesting. Cynthia?
Thank you very much, Joel. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to stand on the existing protocol. I'm speaking from the perspective of women empowerment. AI is very, very promising in empowering women. We know the gender gap, we know the gender biases in agricultural systems. We know the issues, we know the entrenched gender barriers, the constraints that women face, accessing agricultural information, for instance, accessing resources of land, resources of finance, resources of even having market access it has been an issue, being that women have a whole lot of roles to play, even as caregivers at home. So AI is very important and has great potential in bridging these gaps. So women can, at the comfort of their homes, use AI technologies to access farm inputs, okay, access sources of finance, access agricultural information while they are doing their caregiving roles, providing for the family, preparing foods, taking care of children. They do not have to leave their homes to be able to access these resources that will help them to build their economic base. So AI has a great potential for women in agriculture specifically, and then for marginalized communities. AI has also this great potential of targeting specifically the needs of the women, because we are talking about gender. We said we want to be intentional about women and their needs. It's not just the issue of number, trying to look at how many people are here or there. We also want to really target women's needs, which most of the time may differ from the needs of the men and other members of the social system. So AI also can help these women to identify their needs, and pursue their own life aspirations. So there is a whole barrage of things that AI can help women who are marginalized already in the social system to be able to achieve, and the persons living with disabilities. So, and we are glad here to share from my experiences working in this project to policy, policymakers and practitioners alike, so that this can be taken on board, and we hope to create a better future for Africa's agriculture and food system through AI. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, and I will say my and our wonderful team of experts. And so you can see from the discussion that there are positives, there are negatives, but you see there is also always the adage, local adage, that says that we will not, because in the process of struggling, someone will get killed and then he will not go to struggle. So, but he will want to see how he can struggle and will not get killed. So he wants to take the positive, or she wants to take the positive. For our women, it is clear that algorithms can perpetuate or mitigate biases against these women and marginalized communities in the area of agriculture. For instance, if an AI algorithm was used in predictive analytics for crop management, if it relies on historical data that are not fully representative of the local communities or the local weather in that community, you find out that it may not fully represent the practices, and then therefore it cannot predict efficiently what the women will use. And so it can even increase lack of interest in agriculture because they are not being assisted. Another one is even in areas of high seed qualities. Most trained algorithms may want to predict high yields with high quality seeds, but these women do not have access to these high quality seeds. And so when the AI predicts and they go and they get a lower yield, it can also contribute to reinforcing existing disparities. And so you can see more men going into work than the women. So we are intentional about what we are discussing. So the key point is that the impacts are great. It can be used in mitigating climate change in the area of agriculture and food systems, in predictions, weather predictions. It can be used in many ways, even for determining what type of pest that is attacking. It can also be used to enhance accessibility by increasing distribution across the markets. But the question is, are the women educated enough to use them? Do they have access to the technologies For instance, how many of them have access to high quality Android devices, intelligent phones that can handle that? So while using AI, we must be intentional about allowing these women, who represent up to 70% of farmers in the agricultural sector, to have access. So we want then to go into the next aspect. Now we have discussed impact. We want to now present our gender equality, diversity, and social inclusion framework for adopting AI in agriculture. I have the privilege to do that presentation, because that presentation is drawn from the project implementation process. So when we talk about the general process or framework that we have developed, we then go into key approaches, very important approaches that are key to that framework. So for now, I want to share my screen, and I would like to make a presentation on that. Just hold on, let me share my screen. Sorry, I think my network is hanging. It will be shared soon. I hope you can see my screen now.
We're
Not
not
yet,
seeing it
Joel.
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, Joel.
Yeah, we're just trying to bear with the network here.
Okay. We're seeing it.
Okay. So the framework will first present the framework that is like a cycle of AI presentation, and the vision was drawn from the GEDI framework that looked at three categories of AI, integrating the various aspects of AI, from production, from development to the actual algorithm development, to the deployment, and then the testing phase. So this framework for gender diversity and inclusion in adoption is not a framework that looks basically at responsible AI, but it's a framework that looks at how to integrate gender equality and social inclusion in AI development process, especially in respect to agriculture and food systems in Africa, and is drawn from the lessons and best practices from previous projects, the AI4AFS, that is the artificial intelligence for agriculture and food systems, and also the gender innovation project. So these lessons are being shown here as we have developed it in a framework, and the framework is structured into three critical stages of AI adoption. Basically the pre-AI development stage, and research, the development and research process proper, and then the deployment, testing, and adoption of the AI. So in each stage, we want to look at how it is designed that the principles of gender equality, diversity, and inclusion are embedded in it throughout the life cycle. So this is the framework. We are going to, when we go through the framework, we then take aspects of the framework that are very important. I hope you can see the next slide. All right, so this next slide now looks at the stages, the key actions, and approaches. Remember, we said that the key actions or the key approaches, we'll discuss that more. But this is just looking at the whole cycle of AI production, this AI adoption, and we'll call it the framework for gender equality, diversity, and inclusion for AI adoption in agriculture and food systems. So if you are not into the AI field, we want to bring it down to what you could understand. And we want to use similar designs or technology development to, talk about this framework. In a standard form, before technology is adopted, the technology is developed and a problem is formulated. So we look at this technology now. Maybe for agriculture, we'll look at cassava peeler, mesh sheller, or any other interventions. We can say pre-development stage, where you need to understand what you want to do. You want to see that what you want to do keys into the agenda of the stakeholders or the needs of the stakeholders. You are interested in that. So for AI, again, we bring it into that, and we said we adopted this three-level stage development from a GIZ responsible AI assessment stages, and then we had to develop our own actions and key approaches. So in the standard form, you have the pre-development stage. And in this pre-development stage, you want to understand the system. You want to understand the work, what you want to do. So if we are domesticating it to Africa, we want to say that it should shift from the natural research process that most of us, maybe 70% of the people in the audience are researchers. And that our research culture is such that we think about a problem, maybe define it from literature, and we get maybe 50 literature that talks about it. There may not be 50 literature domesticated in Africa. They may be around the globe, but context of problems differ from one place to the other. So you find out that from there you develop a problem and you want to take it to market, because the idea of AI development should be not to develop and keep in the labs or in the kiosk or maybe in display rooms, but should be used. For instance, we see in Netherlands what AI is doing, using it. People are buying the tools. You go to the Play Store, Google Play Store, you can download and even use. So while we develop, we're also interested that end users have access to these developments. Hence, our framework looks at key actions. We're going to expand on these key actions in the following slides. The key actions is that during pre-development stage, we're interested in community engagement or participation in problem identification. Now, what does it mean? You'll get to know that later. But from the word community engagement, it means that you are going to engage both physical and virtual. What does it mean? For me, physical will mean the people on the ground. Virtually maybe the tools or the literature you have reviewed, and maybe other people you can interview. So there is the community approach to problem identification, so that it will be easy for people to have a buy-in. People will agree this is a shared problem. Then, since we are targeting inclusion of women who have the highest population in the agricultural sector, especially the production, the pre-harvest operations, and even the post-harvest operations, we are interested that these marginalized groups, their voices be integrated. So you are again intentional that when you are defining the problem that that defines the AI tool you are developing, you must have their voices, not thinking about a general idea, general problem, but specific problems with these women who are dominant. So since they have the majority stake, their voices should be included. So then we also talk about diverse and representative data. Remember what I said earlier, that one of the problems you may have is where you use a data that is not situated in the context of use. It may be data you get on cargo or in plant village or any other place. But the question is this data diverse and representative of men, women, people living with disabilities? Even when you're taking voices for language interpretations, you find out that you have to be intentional about whose voices you capture. Again, we noticed that the way women see color is different from the way men see color. These are unique disparities we need to integrate in the development process. So that is the key actions. So you must make sure as an action that the data is diverse and representative before you even go into the training of the algorithm. Since we know that this data defines the machine, the output from the machine learning, or it defines the efficiency of the system. So we're interested in that. So if you move to the second stage, now you have defined the problem, you have known what you want to do, then you go into the algorithm, that is the development process. You now talk about bias identification. You have collected data, quite good, fine. You have the data, but do you validate the quality of the data? There are many algorithms you can use. Or do you use just blanket approaches to, just develop your data by assigning maybe the pixel quality and all that? Or do you engage both men and women who are researchers to validate the data that it is representative? Who are the identifiers there? So that is the point we mitigate biases. Okay, there was an experience where in an AI system, it was used in sampling applications in a company. And the sampling is such that the AI system gave priority to men more than women. Now that is a bias due to the data you use in feeding the AI system. So it's also something like we're saying, garbage in, garbage out. Yes, even in deep learning algorithms or reinforced learning, you still need data. They learn data. So the data is important. So that is why there you could see we mentioned, I want to talk about it because we may not talk about this approach in detail. That is representative and diverse expert team. In the project, we make sure that teams have diversity. And that is, you have men, women. In such a situation, you have only men in an AI development team, then you can say it is not diverse. Somebody living with disability may have a perspective to include people living with a disability in the data augmentation. Women will want to represent women interest in the data. And then men will do that. So in such, you have balance. And you may say, oh, this plant has a disease. But the woman will say, no, it's still healthy. Maybe because of color perception. So you want to make sure that these are understood, even in the large language models, who are the ones that the ideology in some of these large language models portray more of masculine ideology or theories. So we want to have a diverse team. Then you talk about inclusive, the biased algorithm. There are the bias tools that you can use to check bias in your algorithm. And then we talk about model fit. So when we have representative, diverse experts team, you are interested in the model fit for solution. The model, is it the best model that you want to use? If it is not, then in the development process, you may have to choose a better algorithm, which is influenced by your team. So team composition is very, very important. And that is why in the Artificial Intelligence for Agriculture and Food Systems Research Network, that is our hub, we're intentional about partnership. We're intentional about this diversity between public, private, and research. For instance, you have the private research and the civil societies. Their perspective matters. So this idea of just researching on your own is not proper. And then we go to the last stage. The last stage is talking about the deployment and testing and adoption. what do we want to do? Inclusive testing of the AI system, getting perspective about performance and whether this solution, provided fits or solves the challenge from different perspectives. Again, the word will repeat: intentionality. It is not optional. It is a must you do it. And then we talk about co-development of capacity training needs. Co-development process. You don't just assume that they can use the tool. Then their capacity to use the tool should be built. And we have found out that a lot of research work shows that literacy level, education influences technology adoption. So it's not about developing the tools. You need to also understand the unique needs of these women and marginalized societies to use these tools. Then we go into feedbacks and the actual training. The training should not just be focused on the tools. It can also expand even to literacy on how to use the mobile devices, as we saw in our project. Our project will have to train the women on how to use the mobile devices, how to install softwares, understanding terms, and this is just out of scope from AI adoption. So we need to be balanced, we need to be inclusive in our approach. So this is in a nutshell. So the approaches are clear. For all these processes, for the pre-AI development stage, where you engage, we talk about design by inclusion. Daisy will discuss more about this design by inclusion approach. And then we have an approach during the deployment and testing stage we call creating safe space capacity strengthening, where these individuals, their unique needs are understood and the training takes place in a safe space. And Cynthia will discuss more about this. So you can see here in the pre-development research, we're saying community engagement in public problem identification, women and marginalized groups voices integrated. So the action is that you ensure that the voices of the women and groups are actively sought, which means it's not a one time. You have to still go back to them from time to time. We are sure that if such discussions, if such engagements continuously, goes on from development to deployment, there is no how there will be no willingness to adopt and use. And so they will not be looking at it, you are bringing something from somewhere, but there will be a sense of ownership. And that is why we are emphasizing that these voices must be integrated. So if you are a researcher in AI, please, if you are developing something, you need to stop now and go and engage your user community. And while engaging your user community, you are intentional about the approach. You can use focus group discussions, surveys, community meetings, as you can see in that picture. If you do it, then we change the paradigm. We move from, you have a paradigm shift from the normal research culture currently, where all of us focus on what we think and not what others think. Now, in the development and research process, this what it is. So we want you also to look out for our paper that will be coming out that will discuss more of this in detail. But we said bias identification and mitigation. So you can use advanced techniques and tools to detect biases in data and algorithms. Those in algorithm development understand it and they need to use those tools. This involves statistical analysis to identify any patterns of bias that could lead to unfair outcomes. And then we talk about the bias algorithm, model fit to solution. The action there is that you must be intentional again to design algorithms that are explicitly tested for fairness. There are algorithms, sometimes you may not develop the codes. You may have to take codes from, Kaggle or take from GitHub. Some of these algorithms that have been pre-developed that you want to use may have biases. So you may need to put them into integrity check to check whether they have biases against men or women or people living with disabilities. If you even see today, Google want to do an analytic about the place you visited. You see, if you have filled some of the Google surveys talking about the place you visited, one of the things they will ask you, does it have a wheelchair access? Why is that question? Does it have a wheelchair access? It is because some cannot walk and may need to use a wheelchair. So if you design a building without a wheelchair access, that building is not inclusive. It's actually separating or bringing some bias. So we are interested in this. So the development, testing, and adoption stage will now mean that you conduct first extensive field testing of the AI system with diverse user groups. So you couldn't just conclude that it is working. This diverse group will include the women, people living with disabilities, and other marginalized communities. In the context of what the projects we have been doing in the ATPS, we also identify that there is an extension community, what we call the extension system, where you have the researchers, you have the extension agents, and you have the farmers. You may need to also go within this group of people to determine from women researchers, specifically, their perspective, from women extension researchers, their extension agents, their perspective. And then we have already focused on women farmers and other marginalized communities. And we talked about co-development of the training and capacity need. Work with these diverse communities to co-develop the training programs. Their specific needs will be highlighted, and it will actually make sure that their capacity is enhanced to use these tools. That is also what we did in that project. We made sure that we went back to these women and we asked them those questions. Cynthia and Daisy will highlight more on this. Then on the training and user feedback, which is the last stage, we should establish an ongoing training program to help users. It's not a one-time training. That's why we're also looking for opportunities to go back to these ones and train them more. And even in the AI4AFS Plus, which is an extension of the AI4AFS program, we're trying to make sure that these users are also, their voices are incorporated by making the system robust. We have a lot of time to talk about this, but the time has failed us. So we need to go into others. You may need to request from ATPS more about this inclusive framework. Thank you very much. We then need to go into the next presentation, after which we'll take, I think from now we can take questions and answers. Those questions and answers will come in before we go into the design by inclusion approach. It would be nice to listen to that aspect from Daisy. So please, can we get some questions from the audience and then we can go on? Thank you. Please, before you ask your question, I will not fail to recognize our mentor. Before Maria Catherine came, we missed her so much, but it's good. She's in IGRC fully, and that is other than no other person than Dr. Shannon Sutton. So nice to see you, Dr. Shannon. And I think this is the best day for us. You have made our day, Dr. Shannon. So please, can you say hi to us? We'd love to hear your voice.
Hi, Joel. Thank you so much for the warm greeting. It's really nice to see all of you. I have also missed you very much. And I'm sorry I had to join a bit late, but really excited to hear all of the updates since we last worked together, and just so pleased to be here with you all today. So congratulations on everything, and really looking forward to hearing more from Daisy and Cynthia and others. Thanks very much.
Hello, Joy.
Hello,
Hi.
sorry. So sorry, Khan, I just muted myself. I'm asking if does anybody have questions? We want to give 30 seconds for questions, and if it doesn't come up, Daisy has something to say. Daisy, please, do you have something to say?
Not really. I was wondering whether I should proceed to share my screen.
Oh, we wanted to see if there were questions, or maybe we'll take all the questions at the end. So if, well, Wetland, please, do we have any question at the comment section? Okay, so
No,
we
we
can
don't
go
have
on. Daisy from, okay, so Daisy from ISIPE, partner, will now make a presentation on explanation of the design by inclusion methodology, case studies from Nigeria and Uganda. Thank you, Daisy. You can share your screen and take the floor.
I'm trying to look at my, okay. Are you people able to see?
Yeah, the screen is coming up.
Is it? Okay, let me see. I hope I have the correct one. I hope it's not.
Did you select entire screen, or you selected a window?
I think I selected entire screen. Maybe I stop sharing it and do it again. Good. Because I had minimized my window. Let me see if I can do that. Am I doing the entire screen? Yes. Or window? Do I use the whole window? Or,
so you use the entire screen so that you can put your slides in full screen mode.
Okay. I'm trying to do that. Let me see. Is there anything coming up?
Yes, so you can go to your slide. We can see your screen now.
I'm yet to see it myself.
You can minimize the your
I can minimize the background. I don't know. Goodness.
Yes, and then the slides.
Let me
now click on the slide.
Sorry, Joe, I'm not yet there. I need to get there. Sorry.
So what you should do is, have you seen your slide?
I have so many screens that were open. I'm wondering whether I'll really make it. Oh, goodness.
So if you want to, you can still go. You
It's
can still talk about it.
Stop sharing. If I stop sharing, then goodness.
Alternatively, if you can send it to Alfred or Joel, we can project it for you.
I think so. Let me see if I can do that. So the colleagues, I even feel maybe I should, because I'm not making it.
So as Daisy is handling that technical pitch, I would want to again, when I appreciated Shannon, she was not here, so I would want to say thank you again for starting a very good job for us in co-creating this project. It was, I mean, we were able to come this far because of your mentorship, the co-creation of this project, the co-development, and even in implementation. Before you handed over the baton very well to Maria Catherine, who has even done more than you, so which is good. So we thank you for starting a very good journey with us. You brought a new perspective. I'd appreciated you a lot before you joined, but I want to still say it again that we value your partnership with us, and we wish and we hope to continue to partner with you. Shannon, Dr. Shannon. Again, in the gender framework that Joel presented, I was just to maybe ask a question, because I believe the stages, the key activities, the approaches will lead to something. So I am also looking at a situation where the stages you identified, the key activities that you'll be implementing, that will be implemented in the framework, the approaches that will be deployed, to achieve those key activities will eventually lead to an outcome. So this is just a suggestion, and that we need to think about to think of getting a tangible outcome, as if we are developing in a result framework. You look at what will eventually be the outcome of your intention. So that was what I did not see in the framework, and I hope you take that into consideration to identify what will be the overall outcome of all these activities that use a particular approach. So did you get what I mean, Joel?
Yes,
Hello, Joel.
your statement. Yeah, you can hear me.
Yes.
You can hear me. So I said
Yes.
your suggestion is taken as an internal suggestion. We are expecting external reviewers to give us more suggestions. Thank you.
Yes, as there's no dull moment. That's why I wanted to trigger that suggestion while we wait for the external ones. So have you been able to sort out this?
I've shared. I don't know whether Joel has received. Sorry about this. Actually, if I was in the office, I would seek assistance, but I'm struggling here. I'm not in the office. Joel, have you received? I've shared. Let me see if I can get.
Yes,
I seem to be making progress. Is this me or you?
Yes.
I've just managed to do this. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, you can see my screen.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about this. I'll be very quick, and I've tried to summarize a lot of content. So the design by inclusion, which Joel was talking about in our framework, I want to present some outcome and some key learning, key things that we learned from our pilot on design by inclusion of AI tools in agriculture, an approach to empower women and marginalized communities in Africa's agriculture and food systems. Yeah. So as we know, the challenges the women and other marginalized groups will be having in agriculture in general, less access to technology, their education level is limited, and all those characteristics they find themselves in, they seem to lag behind. And one wonders that if artificial intelligence comes in, which is indeed coming in, are we not going to leave them behind even more than has been before? And with that worry, we want to believe that design by inclusion is one of those approaches that can empower women and other marginalized groups or people to adopt, to embrace and adopt AI so that they can also realize the potentials of AI in agriculture. So design by inclusion is nothing other than developing a product to provide the best possible coverage of diversity within the user population. So we are saying the marginalized, who by default can be left behind if they are not indeed part of this. We would like to include them to be part of the design itself. You have all these AI experts. Can we bring in the users, especially the marginalized, because once they are there, any other average user and above will carry them along. So indeed, it's this is not a new approach. It has been discussed by so many writers. Actually, Holmes had discussed about it so widely. It just carries different terms: inclusive design, social-centered design, socially inclusive. And in this case, we have our term here, design by inclusion. So we intentionally consider and involve members of the marginalized community, such as women and others, in the design of AI technologies, in this case, in agriculture and food systems. So the users, the marginalized, they are part of the designers. They sit together with the AI experts because we want to incorporate their experiences. We want to incorporate their lived experiences and their perceptions as we develop the AI. And in that case, that can lead into such empowerment we are looking for. So the overall objective of this this is a project that was responding to some call or innovation challenge, AI innovation challenge.
Hello, Deshi.
Yes, yes.
You are not moving your slide.
Really? I'm on the second one.
It has not moved, so you can move it.
I'm looking at design by inclusion. Is that you're able to see this one?
Yeah, on the first one. You were seeing the first one. So go to the next.
I'm on the next. I'm wondering what I should do because I'm on the next one.
Use your arrow keys.
Are you able to see design by inclusion slide? That's where I am.
We are on the first one. We are seeing the first one.
Wow. There is something wrong here because I'm able to move and you are not able to see.
It is not moving. That's why.
Yeah, it's not moving on the
screen.
On the audience side. And me as a presenter, I'm able to see this. I don't know whether this would just be a case where I just present and you don't see the slides. Perhaps maybe
if Joel has not received it to share, then maybe you can just go ahead to Joel. If you have received it, she can stop sharing so you can move, or Alfred.
I've sent to Joel only.
I'll stop sharing.
I can stop.
Yeah, stop.
All right, thank you. Let me stop. Sorry about this. Let me stop sharing. And then I've stopped. Are you able to? All right, thank you. Okay. Next slide, George, if you're able to take me to the next one.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, but you're going back. I think you need to click on the particular slide. I think this is something that is more recent with Meet.
Yeah, just go to the next one.
Okay.
All this background, I think we can go to the next. Yes, this is where I was talking about the design by inclusion, trying to explain what it is. So we are developing a product to provide the best possible coverage of diversity within the user population, making sure that especially those that are marginalized are not left behind. Because many times the designers have the user, the average user in mind. And so those that are below average, they can be left behind if we don't take measures. So I was just saying that design by inclusion is not new. It has been discussed by so many authors in literature and carrying different themes, inclusive design, social inclusive, centric, and all those. And here we have design by inclusion, which is similar to all those. And that's, Joel, next. That's what we would like to adopt as we develop the AI tools in agriculture. So as I was saying, this was a project that was responding to the Call Innovation Challenge for GI under the AI4D program of IDRC. So the objective was to strengthen the capacity of women and marginalized communities to ensure that they benefit from the potentials of AI technologies in agriculture and food systems in Africa. So the specific objectives was to improve how women and marginalized groups adopt and use AI technologies in AFS through user-led inclusive design, the design by inclusion in this case. And of course, to develop a set of best practices and recommendations for gender-inclusive AI technology adoption for women and marginalized communities in agriculture and food systems in Africa, which Joel has presented. So this was our pilot study. Joel, next. Yes, so we had to pilot this on the already existing projects by our grantees. We had selected 2 of them. We did this because the time given for this, the funding was not enough for us to have a startup, to start from zero and walk through this design by inclusion. So we had to pilot this on an already existing project. So we had to choose 2 projects, one from Uganda and another one in Nigeria. Joel, next. Yes, so we had these 2 projects. These 2 projects were different. The project in Uganda was a scaling project, which has a hub, AI4AFS. We funded a scaling project. What does that mean? It means the tool, the AI tool, was already developed in another research initiative. So we are picking it up from scaling, in which case we had no control over whether they were able to consider gender equality and inclusion in this project. So we pick it up from the scaling level, while the one in Nigeria, we started with this project team. And the good thing is that when we started with our sub-grantees, we had a GI plan, we had a gender plan, a GI plan, and so we insisted you incorporate the users right at the start and so forth. So these are 2 unique projects. One is a scaling project, another one, at least there was some GI considered at the start of the project. Next. Yes, so what we did was to have a community dialogue. In this design by inclusion, it's a question of sitting together with the users and hear and document their opinion and their experiences in their production of the crop in question. For Uganda, it was cassava. For Nigeria, it was yellow pepper. So we are sitting with these women in some safe space where men are not part. So we are sitting separate from the men, and we listen to their thinking, and we are looking at the entire production chain, the entire value chain of cassava, the entire value chain of the yellow pepper, and we are trying to hear what has been the experiences and the problems which then AI could be used to solve. So we were sitting with them so that we can identify the priority needs. And so that happened for Uganda and that happened for Nigeria. We had a set of questions, as usual. We had to have a set of guiding questions with this. Yes, so I call it, oh, are we already in phase 2? This must have been phase 1, sorry. This must have been phase 1. It's all right, I think there is, perhaps I sent you something that was a bit different, but this must be phase 1. The phase 1 is where we are having this community dialogue, and this was in Uganda. And so we had 2 groups, one group of women, 15, And the another group that was of men, these were the elderly men and men with the disabilities. So as you can see in the photo, these are the women-only safe space so that women could express themselves and speak out, and we document what they say. So that was in December 2023. And of course, there was a facilitator, there was a rapporteur, so that we can have this recorded and try to share the results later. You're next. So take it, this is phase one. Yes. For Nigeria now, we are looking at having a community dialogue with farmers that grow yellow pepper. So in this case, we had 25 farmers and they were in 5 groups. We had to make sure the groups are small enough. So even here, we also had to look at the entire value chain of yellow pepper, starting from land preparation, the seeds, the growing of the crop, and the harvesting and the marketing and everything else, and the other practices that are needed, the irrigation and so forth, the weeding that is necessary and so forth. So we listened to these women and documented for the entire value chain. You're next. Yes, so I just want to cut the story a bit short. We had discussed so much from land preparation, the seed availability, what it takes to weed, and all the challenges they have in this case for Uganda. So the women, we asked what are the topmost priority needs, the first 3. So this is what they said. Soil analysis for nutrient levels to inform suitability of cassava production. They felt they're just growing cassava without understanding whether the soil is indeed suitable for that or not. They were also looking for soil analysis to establish presence and absence of disease-causing pathogens, because many times they grow the cassava, the diseases show up later. And for them, they thought they were growing clean, a clean crop. So that was one of the topmost need. And the next one, in order of priority, identification of disease and pests and their intervention or control. And the third one that they put as a priority need was the market pathways and management of farm gate prices, and the need for cooperative to manage sales so that they can leverage on volumes. So in this way, they felt the prices were too low. They are too low because they don't have the negotiating power, because the buyers come to them, and so this is at farm level and no negotiating power, and they sell that crop at a very low price. And they feel, if we come together, we can then access better markets and get better prices. So these are the topmost priority needs. So the first one was the soil analysis. However, the farmers acknowledge that the technology at hand, this is a scaling project, the technology at hand was indeed effectively addressing the need for pest and disease detection. Next. Now, as for Nigeria, we are looking at the yellow pepper. These are the top 3 priority needs as expressed herein: pest and disease detection. So the farmers stress the importance of advanced technology in detecting and managing pests and diseases, which are significant for the crop. They also pointed out water management. They feel there is need to have efficient water management so that they are able to maximize the water that is available. So they expect AI tools to provide insights and solutions for better utilization on their farms, better utilization of water on their farms. The last one, the third one, was soil nutrient information that leads to efficient use of fertilizers. So understanding the nutrient levels and fertilizer is essential so that they can optimize the fertilizer that is used and ensure, of course, crop health. So these are the 3 needs. Topmost was pest and disease detection. Next. Yeah, these are just some of the insights that the women expressed. They acknowledge that the current technology that was developed in Nigeria was effective in addressing the need for pest and disease detection. And they highlighted that this technology was a benefit because they were able to receive real-time feedback from their farms. The app had gone that far to be able to get feedback from their farms, regardless of their location. You sit in the comfort of your home and be able to view your farm. And they also expressed that they would like to have an AI tool that is to do with real-time detection of diseases. Because when the disease is well developed, they're able to detect. But they can't detect at an early stage, which is very critical to avoid crop loss. And they also agree that the experiences, of course, they allow them to be able to detect the diseases at a later stage, but not early enough. For the type of irrigation, they were looking for an irrigation system that is automated so that you don't walk to the farm and put it on. So they must be in the comfort of their home and be able to control the irrigation. There should be some controls that the water level is low and then irrigation is on and so forth. Those are some of the discussions that were part of this design by inclusion as the researchers sat together with the women in this community dialogue we are talking about. Next. Now I rush into the lessons learned because this is very key now. What does design by inclusion do to the players, to the users, to the AI experts as you sit in a round table trying to identify the problems that are there and of course trying to seek solutions to these problems? One of the things that we recognize is that farmers have different needs and of course knowledge levels, and of course access to technologies is really crucial. And you get these gender disparities and education differences that influence technology adoption. So you get the younger farmers and those with high education levels more likely to adopt AI technologies. So the co-development of AI tools with diverse stakeholders ensures that all farmers, regardless of their knowledge and capabilities, can learn and benefit from each other. Mind you, these are sitting in the same, the different ages, they're sitting in the same space, the women, and they indeed learn from each other because they are at different levels. So the conversation going on, it means they learn from each other because people are different, they have different levels of knowledge. Next. Yeah, the collaboration, this sitting together, interaction, and trying to look into what are the problems and what are the possible AI, technologies that we want to come in so that we solve the problem. That collaboration is an empowerment on its own. So you are looking at the process because it brings that awareness. When you're sitting with these women and you're having the conversation about AI tools and what they can do and what smartphones can do because they house these apps, it empowers them because this conversation is something that really will make you, gain something out of. So the exchange of such lived experiences, it strengthens the relationship among women farmers and even the people with living with disabilities, leading to the desire to even form cooperatives to pool resources and improve market access and price bargaining. I don't think if we had not done the design by inclusion, this issue of saying, can we come together as a cooperative or as come together as a group? It wouldn't happen unless we put people together this way. And so that is just one of the things that I feel it adds a lot of value. Design by inclusion adds a lot of value. Next. Yes, respecting users' indigenous knowledge. This is now for the researchers. Listening to the women and the people with living with disabilities, we were humbled because it revealed that farmers possess a lot of important information which the designers need to use as they design the AI tools. So the team realized, us as a team, realized that the farmer circumstances are not due to lack of inherent capability, but rather due to lack of skills and opportunities. They just lack opportunities, but there is a lot of knowledge out there in these farmers, which then we can take advantage of as we develop the AI tools. Next. Yes, let me come to this. Now realize that we are catching up with projects that for the Nigeria one, they had already developed the app, but at least they had considered the gender equality and inclusion integration in that. And the one in Uganda was a scaling up project. And so we did not have so much of the process to follow. And so after having this design by inclusion, we had all this discussion with the women, and we tried to track what are the priority needs. Actually, one of the lessons that we learned was to do with mismatch. Sorry that it's missing here. What we noted is that for the scaling project, the women identified as top priority need the soil analysis. While the AI tool that was developed was for early detection of disease and pests, and that's the mismatch. And that's the reality about coming in as AI experts to develop a tool without, without participation of the users. You get that mismatch. It's possible you'll be developing a tool that may not necessarily be the topmost. The good thing in this case, it was the second problem for the women farmers, for the cassava farmers. Whereas in Nigeria, there was a perfect match. Pest and disease was the priority need, and that was perfect for the users as well. So to avoid mismatch, there is indeed need, design by inclusion, to be part in the topmost, as it was shown when Joel was presenting the framework. It was there at the topmost. When you are trying to see which problem should be solved, it's not your problem as an AI expert, it's the problem of the users as they tell you this is our priority need. And so there was a mismatch. So when we had done this design by inclusion, because we had already had the AI tools already developed, we didn't have the chance of developing that, the process of developing it. So we just had to go into the second phase of training. So I remember Joel had mentioned that we had to co-develop the modules for the training. You sit with these women and ask them, what do you want to understand? What do we sit and train, interact with this AI tool? What should we be doing? Otherwise, you don't want to create a module excluding the users as if, you are going to present, So they took part even in the development of the module. What they wanted to see us train them is what we must have trained them. So that's what really happened. So there was that co-development of the training module. And of course, they were trained generally on the smartphone. Login were problems. I mean, there are those that will log in, forget password, and so forth. You know what it takes to use some given app. So the training was pointing towards that as well. And of course, there was also field training. So that was practical, collecting the data and get an image and subject it to the app. And then it should be able to identify you, this is the disease X that we are looking at in this given image that was collected in the field. Of course, the women and the marginalized person with disabilities were trained, and that was hands-on, as we are saying there. And finally, that was the best that could happen given the time period. And finally, next slide. Yes, one of the limitations of the study, we need to recognize that we are dealing with only 2 projects. We would wish to have so many projects because we want to see, is this really powerful? Is design by inclusion powerful? But even with the two, we recognize that this is really powerful because the end result of design by inclusion is that the users feel, they feel they have been listened to because you have incorporated their thinking, and therefore, because you are moving along with them, they embrace and adopt such a type of tools a bit more easily as compared to if they were not part of the process. So being part of the process is so key, and design by inclusion is just one of the approaches to do so. So our limitation is that we are dealing with 2 individual studies. We would wish we had so many of them. That would be a very good thing, because then it increases the credibility of the study if you have more case studies to play around with. What else? Yeah, it's also important that we incorporate this extension staff as we go along, because if we leave them behind, they're also drivers of technology adoption in the systems, in the communities. And so that is something that we would also consider, as it was mentioned in the framework. And finally, we developed the framework as has been presented before. And of course, there is a manuscript publication where this framework is part of the content of that manuscript. And of course, that manuscript is being developed by the Hub together with the gender experts that were mentoring us in this process. I think Joel, next. That should be it. Yes, we acknowledge the gender support team from IDRC, and of course IDRC and SIDA as the funders, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present this.
Thank you, Daisy. Thank you very much for your presentation. Because we are running behind schedule, we want to take the presentation from Cynthia, and that presentation from Cynthia will be looking at the best practices and recommendations for gender inclusive AI adoption. And then we take question and answer and briefly summarize, and then we can end the webinar. So Cynthia.
Yes, Joel, I'm trying to share my screen. Let me know if my screen is shared. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Daisy, for that elaborate presentation. You are still on our work, which we are concluding, and we are here to share our experiences. We are here also to ask for your input. So I'm here to present to you this project and then the best practices we are proposing and recommendations for policy and practice. This is my contents, background, best practices, recommendations for practitioners, policy recommendations, then Q&A. So I will start by reminding us once more the position of the smallholder farmers in Africa's agriculture and food system. These smallholders produce up to 70% or more of the food consumed in Africa, and they are made up of majorly women and marginalized groups. And these groups are traditionally excluded, and that's why we call them marginalized communities. We have mentioned not just women, we've talked about persons living with disabilities, the youth, and other intersectionalities that may also be subjecting people to exclusion in our communities. So, but AI tools promising also to enhance agricultural production in Africa. But practitioners, developers will have to be very, very intentional about AI development. If not, AI will also contribute to the barriers that women face, to the barriers that these marginalized communities face. So we are here to nip it at the bud. We wouldn't want it to continue in Africa's agriculture and food system. That is why we are investing our energy with the support from our funders to make sure that Africa's AI system and AI development is promoting gender equality and social inclusion. So I'm presenting to you the best practices we have been able to simulate from our study. And so far, we have been able to, give you some elaborate presentations on what we did and how we did them. Here are the lessons learned that we are now translating to you as best practices for policy and practice. So the number one best practice we want you to look at is that AI development must be user-centered. So right from conception through the design, the whole development process must be user-centered. And for that, we are advocating this design by inclusion approach, which is our major approach in this study. The users of the AI tools should be engaged right from the conception. From the point that AI tools are being conceptualized, the target group must be involved. So AI developers should not just stay at their corner and think that whatever they develop will suit the farming community. Also, from my experience, it's good to use participatory methods in engaging these groups. We are advocating participatory methods because it allows these people to express themselves. So methods like focus group discussion interviews are advocated. Also, continuous iteration based on diverse user feedback. It should not be a one-off thing. The development of AI tools should be something that is continuous. Okay, working with this group, getting information from them, going back again, improving on what you have in the technology, coming back again. It should be a continuous process. So this is what we are advocating, make it user-centered. We're also looking at data governance. A lot of things have been spoken about data. The data should be representative enough. So all the groups that make up the farming system should be represented. So it should not just be a one-size-fits-all data. Data should be disaggregated to represent the intricate parts of the community. We are also saying that there should be built-in bias detection techniques in the data so that any bias can easily be detected and be nipped at the bud. Then there should be transparent documentation of methodologies. This helps a lot to ensure replication of the AI development process. Okay, so we are talking about multidisciplinarity in team composition. Using our team as an example, we have diverse team members. We have women. We have people from different social backgrounds, people from different disciplines. We have social scientists as well as these tech developers. So we are trying to advocate bringing these tech developers to in contact with the social group who are going to be using this technology tool. So for that, social scientists should be part of this research team for any AI tool to be inclusive. We are talking about inclusive team practices. It should be intentionally done. Team practices should be very inclusive. Women should be allowed to participate in the development of the tools as team members. Their opinions should not be relegated. People should not think that it's only women that have knowledge and expertise in AI tools. So unconscious bias training. Most times experts will not even know they have some biases. So there are some biases that they are unaware of. And for that, they can only do as much as they know. So if there are trainings and retrainings of the research team to identify what their biases are so that they will be able to, from the outset, identify these areas and work on their biases so that it doesn't also introduce bias to the AI development. That will be very excellent. So the next best practice is context-aware design. Context-aware design. AI tools should be tailored to the context that it intends to serve. We have this issue very prominent because in our project, we see that in Nigeria, the context, the AI tool was immersed in the culture of the people. The people were there from the conception. They contributed, from the beginning, and that really, made the women's aspiration to resonate with the outcome of the AI tool that was developed. The women were now able to say, oh, this has really helped us to improve on our livelihood practices. But that's not the case with Uganda. So in Uganda, women, we are not carried along from the outset. So that's what caused that mismatch of the AI to targeting pest disease detection, while the women's aspiration is more on soil nutrient management. So we are also looking at offline functionality for these AI tools, because most of these farmers are rural farmers. They reside in rural areas. So practitioners, AI developers should also think of that AI tool that will be working even when the internet connectivity is not strong enough. So accessibility considerations in user interfaces. We mentioned it, one of our experiences is that some of these women and persons living with disability, we are not able to navigate through the AI tools. So, but because of continuous training and iteration practices we engaged in, we were now able to continue changing the interfaces to, have a mix of pictures. We encourage audios and other things that will make people, maybe those who are blind, those who cannot, see pictures, to also use these AI tools. This is very, very important. Remember that at the back of our mind, we should have inclusion at the back of our mind, and it should also be very intentionally done. We should not think that it will, happen naturally. We should be very intentional about it. So we have now chronicled some recommendations from practitioners, and this is very important. The number one is that it should be user-centered design process. There should be rigorous design by inclusion methodologies, which should be included in AI development. We are encouraging participatory methods where these communities will be part of the AI development process. This is very important. We are specifically proposing that for any AI tool to be inclusive enough, safe spaces should be created for marginalized groups to express themselves. They should be able to be in that place where they don't have to be afraid of anybody. So for that, there should be specific groups of women, persons living with disabilities, for them to look at issues from their own perspective, share their experiences, bear their mind and contribute. Okay, this helps a lot. It also not only helps them to be part of the AI development, it also helps them to have this decision-making power, because their decision, their opinions will not matter in that AI tool that addresses their issues. So another recommendation is that data collection and management. We are advocating that comprehensive data strategies ensuring representative data sets. We have said this before. There should be implementation of advanced bias detection techniques. Document data collection and cleaning methods transparently. This is very important for us to ensure fairness and inclusivity. Then another recommendation for practitioner is multidisciplinary team composition. There should be diversity in team composition in terms of gender, in terms of social class, in terms of discipline. An issue that is very, very prominent is that issue in Uganda when the tech expert just developed something she thinks is good. And because she didn't include these people, this is the outcome. So what happens when the research team themselves are not diverse enough so that the views of women will be included, so that the views of social scientists will be included? You see, it will only perpetuate the gender gap in technology adoption, which has been a problem in Africa. So implement inclusive team practices and governance, provide training on unconscious bias and inclusive design principles. These trainings are very important, very critical. It should actually be training and retraining. At each point, there is need for the team members to identify their unconscious biases. There should be training on that. Then the next is context-aware design system. AIT tools to be tailored to local agricultural context and practices. Design interface considering varying levels of digital literacy. Digital literacy is very important. Fundamentally, women don't have this equal educational level attainment with men, and it also has direct impact on digital literacy. It also has direct impact, which is negative, on accessibility of AI tools. So for that, AI interfaces should consider these already existing barriers and try as much as possible to work around them so that AI tools do not, perpetuate a gender divide, gender gap, and the digital divide in agriculture and food system. We have talked about developing online tools. So we're also looking at inclusive capacity building. In our project, we had trainings and retrainings of the participating communities. So most times what we do is that we come and have conversations with these rural women and persons living with disabilities, take them through these AI tools. They try them and we ask them, is there any difficulty? Are you finding anyone difficult? What do you think should be done to improve your access to this? Okay, so in the process, we gain from them what we need to do to improve on it. In the process also, we are trying to improve their capacity to use these platforms. Because you can even imagine that some of them were even afraid to touch the smartphones. Some of them are afraid to navigate through the interfaces. But in the process of training and retraining, you find out they're becoming used to it. Okay, so this is very important. It's also good to use local languages as much as possible, and then create peer learning network for sustained capacity building. Already, the farmer groups we used, we are already seeing themselves as peers. So you see that they are more freer, relaxed to work with peers, much more than they work with us. So that peer learning atmosphere helps them to gain more capacity. So the next recommendation for practitioner we are proposing is scalability and sustainability. This is very important. While developing AI tools, it is important to have this scalability at the back of the mind of the developers. Sustainability, very important. Because these things will have to impact the farmers. It will have to impact what they do, their livelihood activities. For that, you have to think about what is the sustainability of these AI tools and how do I ensure that it can be sustained. So for this, we are saying that AI should have systems with scalability in mind, develop sustainable business models that don't exclude resource-constrained users. For instance, those users that cannot afford smartphones, is it possible for your AI technology to have some interfaces they can also access using the phones they have? Must they have to, buy smartphones that are most often very costly and beyond their reach for them to use it? This should be considered. Then build partnership with local organizations for effective deployment and support. Local organizations are very important for sustainability and scaling because they are there with the local people. The AI developers are not always there. So when you build a partnership with cooperatives, women cooperatives or persons living with disabilities, you are sure that the learning will be continuous and that it can be scaled even beyond the lifespan of the project in case of funded projects. So for policy, we have some recommendations for policy, and I will also say that funders will also, is also a part of who will benefit from this recommendation. First is that there should be mandated inclusivity. We are advocating that AI tools developed to serve communities in a particular country should be made to adhere to inclusivity issues. For instance, they should be required to adopt design by inclusion methodologies for government-funded projects. So, for funded projects, it will be important to say, for you to now be, provided with funding for this project, you must show how you are going to include the users, especially women and marginalized communities. There should be incentive for private sector adoption. Any private sector, take the developer that want to, adopt this inclusivity approach should also be compensated, through different incentives. Documentation of standards for user engagement. We also are proposing these data standards, very important. There should be national data strategies for agricultural AI, data quality standards that are sure to address biases, data sharing frameworks for responsible access. This is very important. Ethical issues should also be considered by governments and funding agencies. National ethical AI guidelines for agriculture should be instituted. AI ethics review board with diverse representation. Specifically for agriculture, AI in agriculture is advocated. And we also advocate mandatory ethics impact assessment from the outset. Even before the AI tool is being developed, there should be ethics impact assessment on the part of the developer. And any developer that doesn't pass this impact assessment may not be approved to develop their AI technology, which will be serving women and other marginalized communities. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you very, very much. And so we have now come to an end with the presentations. So we want to take some questions. So that questions or comments, it must not be questions. Questions or comments, just raise your hand and then we will call you. Our time, we are over time by 15 minutes. So we want to make sure that we're not too much late. So please, if you have questions or comments, we are waiting for that. This is not a lecture situation. This should be also interactive so that we get your views. Your silence may mean that our presentation is a standard, but I feel we need to criticize and make comments, suggestions. So I'm waiting. I'm giving 10 seconds more to see if there will be some hands raised or comments.
Hi, Joel. If there's no comment, I'll point on some people to make comments and actually or ask questions. Dr. Shannon, I would want you to make. I know you are part of this, even if it is a comment. Maria Catherine, Professor Madukwe. The PI for Nigeria project and the PI for Uganda project, if they are here, very briefly. Thank you.
Well, maybe because I will soon leave, permit me to first congratulate the the presenters. I was part of the field work, and sitting back to listen to them, I feel so proud of them because they reported exactly what transpired at the field level. In fact, if they were criminals, they would be getting A's in all their courses. But they were talking as if they were there with me, I tell you that. So I thank them. The report is very clear. I heard somebody saying that they're preparing the paper for publication. I hope that comes through quickly. That's the much I would say. I'm just impressed with the report. Thank you very much.
Shannon, Dr. Shannon.
Hi, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you. I was just writing a message that I have to hop off for a conflict, so I'll be brief. But those were such interesting presentations. I really appreciated what Daisy and Cynthia shared about the importance of co-development at design and testing stages, and also some of the challenges that arise, and what the implications are for thinking about capacity strengthening opportunities. The challenge in particular related to smartphones, I've seen that come up in a few other agricultural projects that I'm involved with in our climate portfolio, and particularly some of the cultural norms that arise around women now having smartphones, and the types of relationships and interactions that can create in the household. I think it's fascinating, and what you're all learning is really contributing to the knowledge we all have around what takes place in the field and how we really need to meaningfully engage people in the early stages of this research. So I'll just say congratulations, and I've learned a ton just being here with you all, and thanks for this important contribution to the field. Thank you, Dr. Nicholas.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shannon. We appreciate that comment. Dr. Maria Catherine, I know you've been with us, so one or two words.
Oh, just to echo the same appreciation as Shannon around just the incredible commitment to take the time to work at the community level and to test out something that was new, and to be open to also sharing the challenges around it. And I guess my curiosity is around, because I know, for instance, Joel, you were talking about, that you see this almost like just as the beginning of something, and you were saying that it was small scale. I think Daisy, you were mentioning that it's hard to make big conclusions because it was so small scale. So my question is more around how you foresee working with other researchers to learn about this approach and to test it out themselves, because it will probably change even more as that happens. So yeah, that's my question, is just how you envision that. And maybe if you have time to also just talk about how those farmers, are they continuing to use those tools that you co-developed with them? You mentioned that there has been some positive outcomes. Yeah, so those two questions it'd be nice to hear something around that. And thank you very much.
Joel, I want to start. This is Daisy. Marie, it's those are good questions. I'm looking at an opportunity where this really becomes a tool that AI experts and the entire stakeholders in this run with. And I know we should be having opportunities to work with, you know, a startup project, something that we start at the beginning. Because this one, we got it already done, but we still have experimented with this. And there are so many opportunities, maybe just to break through something. Isipe now would like to go into digital tools, advisory digital tools. And I look at myself as somebody who should have a good input on inclusive designs, because it's all over now. I see so many calls about it. Actually, we responded to some call with a colleague in the office. We saw something to do with the AI and inclusive design. If you have some AI tool that you have developed and you want to scale up, but it should show inclusiveness. And I jump into that one quickly just because I've done this. So I see the future. We need to run with this. Actually, AI experts need to embrace it. They need to be trained on it, so that they are very conversant with what it takes for us to produce tools that will be accessible, that will be acceptable, that will be easily adopted, because you have involved the users. So I'm looking at this, even in the scaling up of our next project, we definitely need to have this in mind. Otherwise, we are not dropping the ball. So we are running with this. So any opportunity that comes across, it's not now getting designed by inclusion on the way. We right at the beginning, we should be able to have this in the system. I look at it from that angle. The other question I can't remember very well. Sorry. The other one, Kate, you had asked 2 questions.
Oh, it was more about, thank you for answering the first question. The second question was just about what you're seeing after this project. You're saying, that you want to expand it, but I'm just wondering, in the communities in Uganda and Nigeria, how are those farmers doing with the AI tools that you co-developed with them? Is that, if you could just, maybe you already mentioned that, but just share a bit more how it has helped them in their agriculture and and their farming practices.
Thank you. Maybe I can send this to Prof in Nigeria. Is there any response you can provide to this question? Even Professor Zor, you also have some involvement in these projects, because that can give us an idea of what is really going on.
Thank you. You are right, Daisy. Let's invite Professor Joel or Professor Madukwe to respond to this, because they were on ground and they were able to check the level of adoption of those innovative tools that had incorporated inclusiveness. So Joel and Professor Madukwe, kindly, if you can respond to that question. Joel first.
So the project in Nigeria started from a research and development angle, and it has not been scaled, but the farmers were trained to use the tool, but they need to have access to the tool. So one tool cannot serve all the farmers, but at least the farmers are looking forward to getting more of the tools distributed to them. But currently they are using their extension app to communicate. The last visit, an on-site visit that we did with the executive director, the question was asked in terms of understanding what are the impacts of working together. And they said that some of them that were on 1 plot or 1 hectare have moved to 3 or 4 hectares, because they now receive personalized assistance. So I think the Nigerian project is also looking at not just giving them the tools, but having a hub with the farmers' continuous assistance, where those who may not have access can also be reached through text messages. So what we know is the Nigerian project is not a project that the tools have been mass produced. They are yet to also do some robust testing, and they need to now go to the point you start effectively using it. But at the point of research, they have started using it, but it needs to be mass produced and given to these farmers. So the technology has been tested, but needs to be expanded and scaled so that the farmers can have access. But overall, the willingness to use the technology and what has taken place where the farmers now have been organized in a cooperative group due to the intervention is what is coming out. So it's now easy to, get these farmers to use those tools as when the tools are more available. Thank you. One of the other things that comes out in all this is that we need to understand what is called technology readiness level. That a tool is developed does not mean that the end user from the first stage of development, this is basically an 18 months project, that from the scratch, the tool is ready to be used. That is another aspect of technology readiness. So robust testing feedback will require making the tool very viable for use. So that is another dimension. That is why the AI4AFS Plus is also looking at understanding the technology readiness level of some of these tools, and then seeing how we can effectively push it to now go to the end users, make it commercialized. That is our goal.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joel, for that particular point. I would actually want us to be concluding, but to address same issue to Maria Catherine, we've been lucky to have a second phase of the AI4AFS, which now is digging deeper to scale some of the AI tools. So that question you've just asked has an answer in that particular, because we have developed, we have deployed in a small plot scope. Now the new version, or the second phase of the AI4AFS that we've just started this August, is looking at how to put into use those technologies, those AI technologies. And this is exactly where your question is anchored on, in terms of, especially if these other AI tools participate in scaled use of their technologies to either outscale or upscale, then we'll be able to get a better outcome that will address the question of scaled use of the AI tools, as especially monitoring the gender and the inclusion indicators in those scaled use. Thank you very much. So, Joel, you can be rounding off if there's no other question. So that's, sorry that we took up to 10 minutes extra.
Yeah, Maria Catherine, go on.
Sorry, I'll keep it brief. It was just to say that I found it very interesting the way you were talking about the importance that the women and maybe people living, men and women living with disabilities, how they organize themselves through your support into a cooperative, and you're talking about tech readiness. And so one thought I had from my own work in the agricultural field is how I think that's super important, is thinking about what are the existing structures in a community, because we know, we all know that they have their own resources, right? Many resources that can be banked on, that can be leveraged in bringing in a technology. And I know in your method, you ask them what the problems are. Something that you might have done, or it might be something you want to work on, you might want to explore more, is there are approaches, you talked about community conversations as well, which is a very innovative approach, but also just asking those community members, what resources do they have? If they have small farmers groups, I know you talked about the savings groups as well, but just to say all of those local infrastructure can be really important, even for mobile phone access or getting phones or getting better phones. I mean, there might be things like that. And I know you helped women gain greater digital literacy in your work. But that was building on some of the farmers in the groups that you said were more savvy with the phones. So I just wanted to bring that out, because I think that's an important element to the success of your work, but also something that you might want to, or maybe you're already planning to pay even more attention to in your next phase of this exciting work that you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. With that, we can say that Maria Catherine have given us a closing remark from her end. Thank you. You can all see that our discussion have been centered around inclusion, and we cannot continue doing things the way we used to. We need to change our research culture, and it is important we do that. So we will share the recording so that for those who want to have access, so you can just look out for the recordings or insight from the paper that we'll be sharing, so that you can understand this pathway more. I want to take some closing remarks from Professor Nicholas, and then we call it a day. We have taken much of your time, and we want to thank you people for being here.
Mine is just to say sorry that we have stretched you 30 minutes away beyond the time stipulated, but I think the discussion has been very interesting. Thank you for that, your time. I don't want to belabor this discussion anymore, because I think we have learned a lot. Thank you to our donors, our funders. Thank you to Gender at Work, Ladysmith, Women at the Table, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you to Nigeria coordinator, Professor Madukwe, who has stayed all through with us, Professor Dr. Okonzi, who is supposed to be here as well for Uganda, is not here. All the team members and partners, ICIPE and Kumasi Hive, we thank you. We have been enjoying your cooperation and partnership. Thank you, team, and you'll be getting our knowledge products in different forms: policy briefs, journal publications, and reports, blogs, and so on and so forth. And as we continue to popularize these our concepts and frameworks. Thank you again, and God bless you. Have a good evening for those who are around East Africa, and almost everyone. And goodbye.